absolutely no sound. How are we doing, everybody? We can say that all over again. Well, how are you doing? Welcome to the live stream. My name is Lewis, also known as MrCameraJunkie, where I remind you to upgrade your skills before your gear. And what I was saying, which I will repeat, is that even though I say before your gear, gear is a vital part of what we do here when it comes to content creation, whether it's photography, video, audio, etc., etc. And for that, I'm going to be giving you my top picks when it comes to the gear that I think is the best of 2021 and has to do with the best gear that came out this year. So not necessarily the best gear overall, but the best gear that was released in this year. Now, there's some little outliers because there's some cameras that even though they're saying that they've been released, they still have not actually hit market, which is kind of, like threading the wire there. Like the first camera that I could mention, which I'll get to in a little bit, because I believe it's designated to be released next Friday. So let's keep our fingers crossed. But some of this gear is pretty much interchangeable. And like I always say, upgrade your skills before your gear, which really goes into say that any of these cameras, actually a lot of the older cameras could do more than enough of your needs when it comes to content creation. But I'm just going to be mentioning this because we're going to have some fun. We're going to talk about, the hypotheticals and things like that. I have a couple of categories which I'm going to go over. Best camera, best lens, best computer, as far as and that's going to be an easy category. And then also I would say kind of my best accessory. So let's get back to the chat to see exactly. It says I'm trying to read lips, Lewis. No, folks. Okay, John was the first one to let me know. It says, oh wow, James Pruitt, how are you doing, sir? It's been a long time. It says hear music but not me. We got the sound taken care of. We have Jim also letting me know. And then John saying, yes, we can hear you. Yeah, I do have a voice. Skills over gear. No matter how you use it, you have to turn it on. Absolutely. Absolutely have to turn on the mic, right? But that goes to show you, we live and we learn, and we're always, I try to check everything off, but I forgot to click the volume on myself. So give me a quick second, because it looks like Aiden now realized that I'm online and is taking this time to try to run amok. So give me a quick second. I will put the music back on. I'll be back in just a sec. Hey. As always, I have to be a father before anything, so just to make sure that he's out of trouble. And now we can continue. All right, what I was going to mention was first subject that we have is the cameras. Like, what would be the camera of the year? Honestly, even though I haven't used it, haven't touched it, as far as the specs goes and things that are spoken about, pretty much the best camera that is being released as of right now I would have to consider it being the new Nikon Z9, but that's with an asterisk, because of the simple reason that it still hasn't been released. And that's what I was going to talk about. It's supposed to come out next week. You could kind of consider that the best camera of 2022, because that's when people are really going to get their hands on it, and we're actually going to see the photography and video that comes from it. So that's where I can say, specs wise, that would be it. But the best camera that actually was here and in people's hands, without a doubt, is probably got to be the Sony Alpha One. 50 megapixels, 30 frames a second, 8K video, and precursor for those of you who don't know, yeah, no flippy screens on this list. Okay, like these are cameras, and I'm team flip up. So you will not find a fully articulating screen on this list, because that's not what makes or breaks a camera in my view. The Sony Alpha One, hands down, took the photography and video world by storm. And once again, it just applies to the same E-mount lineup, and the price is pretty hefty. But when you look at who this camera is designed for, full size HDMI, full size Ethernet port, like, this camera is everything that you can need and more. But so, you could interchange in between those, the Z9 and the Alpha One. That's what I would say as far as my pick. And then I just want to mention some runners up. The Alpha 7 IV. The Alpha 7 IV really hasn't hit the market as well, so I have to kind of asterisk that one as well, kind of like the Z9. I had the Fuji Gfx 100, this medium format camera, and I am a proud owner of a Fujifilm X-T1, and as a photographer, I grab that camera quite often, just to take a bunch of simple pictures, quick, fast, and I'm always happy with the results. And my camera is not even like a megapixel monster, so to speak. It is a 16 megapixel X-Trans sensor, but it has this filmic quality that's very nice, and that's something that you get with a lot of the film simulations when it comes to the Sony cameras. I mean, the Fuji cameras. That's why I have that one on the list. Canon came out with their camera, which is also asterisk, right? The R3. You have the R5 and you have the R6. Great cameras, but if you would say their unofficial flagship camera and the camera that would actually like get me sort of like excited is the R3. It really didn't make the list. That's why it doesn't have the flippy screen. That one does have a flippy screen. That's why it's just a honorable mention. And then I would like to add kind of like another little subcategory, which is, I believe, the only APS-C camera to come out this year, being the Sony ZV-E10. To my understanding, I was doing some research. Actually, no, I stand corrected. The other one is the Nikon ZFC, which also two great cameras in the APS-C realm. I do think that the ZV-E10 just holds it a little bit above because it has the better autofocus. So that is kind of like my selections when it comes to the photography. I'm going to see what you guys have to say about this as well. When it comes to cinema and video cameras, I think there's only one real camera that made a big splash this year, which is the Dji Ronin Cinema 4D. It is the gimbal all-in-one hybrid cinema camera with the LiDAR autofocus that allows you to shoot, but basically with vintage lenses. It's amazing, and I'm a subscriber to the channel Make Art Now from Josh Yo, and he's really put that camera through its paces. It showed that it does have limitations, but as far as cameras that were released this year, that hands down takes the cake for everything when it comes to cinema, when it comes to quality, functionality, design, innovation. Any person who got their hands on that was completely taken away with the possibilities and the abilities of that camera. So let me go back to the chat to see what's up. Okay, we have Chantel. How are you? Look at you hanging out. Thank you for stopping by. That means a lot. Producer TV says, "Good evening, brother. How are you?" That's Timmy. How are you doing, bro? I have those files. I was putting together the music that the 3 files that I want to send over to you so that we can start working on that track. There was a lot of things that have come up within the first 2 weeks of this month, so right now is just kind of getting over that hump, and I'm able to actually kind of just relax a little bit and start looking forward to better things in 2022. James says, "Kids comes first, mainly why I'm absent for the last few months." Hey, I understand, but we missed you. I'm glad to see that you're doing good and that you're here. Miss you in the Niminati streams just the same, but I know that you'll be coming around, come 2022. Sammy Superstar is in the house saying, hey, Mr. Camera Junkie, how are you, bro? And we also have Mario Crespi saying hello. Saying, Lewis, what's up? Just a live stream, Sammy. Hanging out, talking about camera gear. I'm about to get into the lenses because lenses were pretty interesting this year as well. And that's another thing that I think the Sony lenses, well, you know, foreshadowing that the Sony lenses really are the cream of the crop for the year as well. And James is saying hi to Sammy. Chantel says, love full-size HDMI. So do I. Absolutely. All right, let's go to this here. Gretchen is here. How are you doing? Images by Gretchen saying hi to Mr. Camera Junkie. Says, higher edutech. I believe I was just speaking with you in the Niminati stream as well. If you can let me know your name, I'd appreciate it. Welcome to the Camera Junkie live stream, and say hello to the Camera Junkie crew so they can give you the warm welcome. K-Wall Comedy is in the house. How you doing, Kathy? Says 7. Not sure what that means, but maybe the Alpha 7 IV, something like that, because we're talking cameras. It says, happy Saturday night. Thank you. Well, thank you for stopping by. Okay, I'm gonna continue. When it comes to lenses now, right? Continuing into the gear, Sony has really been taking a page from Canon's old school handbook, so to speak, and what made Canon Canon. Canon for years as a company was saying, like, we don't sell cameras, we sell lenses. And it's almost like Sony said, okay, if that's the way you want to play it, let's do it. And Sony took a special interest in their glass this year. And it's funny that I'm wearing this shirt because it emphasizes it. This is my shirt here, says glass before ass, because optics are always more important than the camera body. And that's when I'm taking, you know, a little emphasis in explaining that with this here. Sony started off the year with a 14mm G lens at f1.4, which took everyone away with the quality of the image. And now Sony has really taken that aspect into heart and making sure that they're putting the highest quality glass in front of their cameras so that there is no reason for somebody to go out. And I emphasize this because when Canon a couple of years ago, they came out with the Canon EOS R, and a lot of people weren't thinking too much of that camera. The people who ended up purchasing it and using it loved the camera, and the reason why was because Canon put the emphasis on their lenses, their 50mm f1.2, their 85mm f1.2, like these RF lenses that were just immaculate picture quality. It really emphasizes exactly what I'm trying to explain, that the image quality is 100%, like almost 100% determined by the lens. For example, old film photography cameras, the film itself had an ISO value, but the film quality was pretty much the same. Now, you would have different looks and different color tones for different camera companies that were providing the film, Fuji versus Kodak, so on and so forth. That, yeah, you had the different emulations of the film itself, but there wasn't like one film was 50 megapixels and the other one was 24 megapixels, right? Like, the quality of the image is always determined by the glass, because the film that you're using behind it, it's only going to represent the image that you put in front of it, the light and the quality of the light that's actually hitting it. So now when you transition from film to a digital sensor, that rule still applies the same way. That's why, yeah, we have different processing for different cameras, whether it's 4K and however many pixels that you can count on it, but that all has to do with the computer processing that you're purchasing in the camera and your final result of what you're getting on screen, as far as how like deep can you go into the image to actually do retouching, which I myself for portraits use a higher megapixel camera count for that reason, that if I want to, well, for that reason I shoot a bit wider so that I have the ability to crop in and adjust, you know, like the vision that I had with the shot, you know, in post. So with that being said, my pick of the year is gonna have some bias in it, which is the Sony 50mm f1.2, because when they came out with this new G Master lens, I've seen the raw files, I've downloaded them to see the quality of the image, and it really doesn't matter. We're talking about 24 megapixel cameras versus 50 megapixel cameras versus 61 megapixel cameras. That lens is phenomenal. And the one like negative that I would say that this lens has is that it's not designed for video, that it's a photography first lens. So there's a thing called focus breathing that it suffers from when you use it for video. But here's the caveat: Sony, recognizing that their photography lenses were also being used for video, and then having the dual linear XD motors that are completely silent, and their autofocus is so amazing whether it's photography or video, they went above and beyond, and their new Sony A7 IV has a feature called breathing compensation, meaning that the focus breathing that you would get in video is removed completely with this feature, taking a $1,200-$1,300 lens that is the 50mm f1.2 and elevating it to cinema level. So a combination of the latest technology with high quality optics are now you know, like married perfectly together. And you know, for those of us who are interested in the cinema, you know, in cinematography, when you look into a cinema type lens that is designed to not focus breathe, so that it can do the focus pulls without giving you that warpiness of the video, which is something that is now applicable to the majority of the G Master lenses, all of those lenses tend to start running at minimum of $16,000 by themselves. And that's like entry level into cinema lenses, right? You have $50, $70, $100,000 lenses that are being put in front of these cinema cameras to achieve this look. And the size is not compact at all. You're talking about monster lenses that almost have to be propped up by themselves just to be attached to the camera that's actually receiving the image from them. So when you take that into play, and then you're saying that a 50mm, you know, cinema lens is going to be about yay big, right? And that is going to sit lightweight within a camera body, whether it be the Sony Alpha One, the A7 IV, or any of the previous versions, because Sony uses the one mount system. You're talking about the quality of image that you can get from these machines nowadays far surpass like people's imaginations, or maybe even their ability. So that's where I say, like, hands down, Sony has really taken the cake. And for me, the best lens out of the bunch right now is the 50mm f1.2. Now, the next lens that I'm going to talk about is completely going the other way. It is a very, like, an extremely underrated lens, because we're going to the Canon RF Mount. Now, we've got the new camera bodies, the 20 megapixel R6, the 30, I believe 6 megapixel, you know, quote me, I could be wrong on that one, but the R5, I believe the R5 is 45 megapixels. So that is what my brain is telling me. We'll run with that one. The lens that I'm talking about is the 100mm macro f2.8 from the RF Mount. Now, this lens is not the most expensive RF lens. I still believe it's considered their L series, which is their top of the line. But when it comes to telephoto lenses, and when you can get them with such a fast aperture of 2.8, and it's also macro, the amount of fine detail that you can get into it just for standard portraits, once again, it gets like elevated to another level. And I love using macro lenses for portraits because you get like that hyper real, and you're able to tone it down, you know, like with your editing and with your workflow. But when it's better to like have the data there and not need it than need it and not have it. So I'm a big fan of using macro lenses for photography, even portraits. And Sony has a similar lens. You know, it's a 2.8 90mm macro, and it's a great lens, but it's also a bit outdated. So Sony, if you're listening, let's put some love to that macro lens, because you need a version 2, just to actually speed it up when it comes to the autofocus. The backdraw to that lens is that it is much older, but we're talking about the lenses that came out this year. So, you know, that's why I have to put this Canon 100mm f2.8 right up there. Once again, I haven't used it, but I was able to download raw files, and I thank all of the, you know, creators on the platform that give me the ability to do that, so that I'm able to see the final results, because at the end of the day, the final results is what it's all comes down to, right? You can say you prefer one thing over the other, but it also has to do with your workflow, your, you know, yeah, like your ebb and flow, right? Like how it works for you and what are the final results that you get at the end of the day. So that's always what's most important. Honorable mentions. I have to mention both of these lenses, but one of them is newer than the other. They're both from the same company, Tamron. For us Sony users, Tamron is a hidden secret, kind of the pros' little unspoken secret, where if you owned a Sony camera and you had the ability to use the Tamron 28-70 lens, you know that that lens, the 2.8 constant aperture, is kind of like a baby G Master. That's, you know, the word between, you know, like the photographers, because the image quality that you get from it are just like maybe a microscopic hair underneath the quality that you would get from the Sony lenses. The prices are dramatically different, and I know a lot of photographers who use that lens on their camera do not take it off and say, like, I've yet to get a complaint. And me as a photographer, I do not complain on the way that this lens works. A really good thing, and that's why I bring it up, is because that lens was an older version, and for those who actually have that lens, just know that Tamron just released a 28-70 version 2, the same 2.8, but now it's even better and has more functionality than the original one did before. So that's where I have to mention this lens. And the latest one is also Tamron's latest offering, which I am a fan of the Tamron lenses. It is the 35-150mm f2.8 for the same Sony E mount, and this is almost a can do it all lens. One big backdraw to the 35-150 is its size. So if you're someone who likes the extremely compact lenses, I would throw you more towards the 28-70. It is not optically stabilized, the lens, the 28-70, but if you're shooting Sony, you know that your camera itself has what we call steady shot. So it will have a vibration compensation built into the body so that you're able to carry a smaller, lighter lens and still get high quality images. That's why that 28-70 from Tamron is like a killer deal. I think they run for like $750, and for a brand new lens that can give you that type of image quality, it's kind of like a no-brainer. My cousin, she uses this lens all the time, and she's like one of the ones that I mentioned. She says, hey, this thing does not leave. Like, once I've got this lens and I put it on my body, I have not removed it, and I have not changed lenses ever since. So that goes to show you, use case scenario of how you use it, and the final results has everything to do with that. So those are the lenses that I think took the show when it comes to 2021, because those are the ones that actually were released in this year. Now, there's also a bunch of great lenses for Fuji. The same, I believe it's a 65mm f1.7 great lens for the Fujinon on that GFX mount for that 100 megapixel medium format camera. So there's a lot of lenses that came out this year, but I believe that the one that takes the cake has to be Sony, just in general as well, because not only did they produce like 3 great lenses, because the last, even another honorable mention is that Sony just came out with the 70 to 200 millimeter f2.8 G Master version 2. Friend of mine, Keith Pelzer, just ordered it. He actually just got it yesterday. Was it yesterday? I think so. Yesterday, the day before, and he was doing an unboxing of it, and the photography bug has officially bitten Mr. Keith Pelzer, 10 camera Keith, and he's excited about that lens. I'm excited to see his reaction once he actually uses it, because he's gonna be blown away with the images that he gets, the results. You know, final thing is the results, and he's gonna be really taken away with what he's gonna be able to do with that lens. He's gonna be extremely happy, and it's also a lot lighter than the original version. So going from someone who used the Canon 70 to 200 L series lens and know how awesome the images that you get from that like focal length, I also know the weight of that lens. That thing was a monster. So having anything that's you know, substantially lighter and can still give you that same quality image is a marvel in itself, which is where I really think Sony takes the cake when it comes to just being compact and powerful. So let's go back to the chat to see where we're at before I get into computers. All right. See where we're at. Okay, right here says, okay, says sounds good, man. Let me know how December goes between Christmas and getting ready for New Year's. Life is hectic. I'm ready when you are, though. Looking forward to making music for you. Thank you very much. But yeah, I'm just gonna shoot them over to you. You know, you're gonna take your time, because I also want to make the most of, you know, the opportunity. So Mr. Timmy Rooks here is actually being so kind that he is going to be making a song for me and for the live stream. So I just need to get some tracks over there to give him some reference and let his creative juices go to work. I was really impressed with your beats, man. So if those of you who would like to know more about producing music, go check out Producer TV. He's making phenomenal tracks, and I'm gonna be honored to have him make one for me. So I'm really excited for that, and I can't wait to get that done. So, you know, I'm just saying it's probably gonna be for, you know, 2022, but we're gonna get it done. Okay, Jim says, own the ZV-E10. I miss the viewfinder, even though I use it primarily for video. Maybe the new Sony APS-C flagship in 2022. I couldn't agree with you more. I am a viewfinder type of guy. Actually, I don't know if he's here. I think I saw him because I'm scrolling through the messages. I had a conversation with Gil a couple weeks ago, and he showed me his Sony A7C, and flip screen, full frame body. It's got a compact size. It's a nice camera, and I looked through the viewfinder, and when I looked through the viewfinder, I could tell it's like much smaller, and I can tell the reason why some people would complain. Now, the image quality that I found from the viewfinder is not really the worst. What was the big thing for me with that camera was that the image itself was small, right? But I still digress. I would rather have a small image that I could reference through a viewfinder, no matter how small. Like, there's like RX 100 cameras that have like a microscopic viewfinder, and I know that I would still be using that to frame my images, because as a photographer, I prefer it. So, you know, using full LCD for photography is not my thing. That's why the ZV-E10 would also primarily be resourced to a video camera for me in particular, because yeah, the only time that I kind of would use the viewfinder for photography, I mean the LCD screen for photography, is if I was kind of doing a demonstration and showing someone what I'm looking for out of a shot, you know, to kind of just be chimping that way instead of actually be using it to frame up the shot. You know, there's certain times that people will say like, oh, I would like a flippy screen so that when I'm, you know, edged down, when I put my camera low to the ground, that's when I would actually use the LCD, and I don't need it to give, you know, to be flipped out. Just as long as I'm able to see it, frame the shot, and take it. I'm also very happy with the autofocus that I get from Sony cameras. That allows me to be more creative and more spontaneous faster, because I don't have to worry so much about, I say so much, but I don't have to worry at all about the autofocus with these cameras. That's why, talking about Gil, I took a couple of pictures of him with my camera in no time, and it was just like a couple minutes and just snapped away. Got some nice shots because it just doesn't have to interrupt everything. If I was using a manual lens or something that was more difficult when it comes to autofocus, it really takes away from the experience that you can give someone when it comes to photography. You know, when you can make it easy and make the person feel comfortable, and then also still produce good results, then, you know, that's when you have the win-win, in my opinion. So, but I agree. I always say, give me to me, about the flagship in 2022, and just to go back to it, I also told Gil, give me the A7C with a flip-up screen. You don't even need IBIS. Throw in, like, give me a A7, right? Give me all the specs of the Alpha 7 that came out in 2014, right? Give me something like that in a small compact body, and I'm sold. I'm sold, especially when it comes to Sony. John says, if I need a mod to hit him up, I will, sir. Thank you very much. Let me see if I can do that right now, because I don't have that other thing up. I think Paul is in here as well. Paul's one of my moderators, but let me get to that. You know what? Give me a second. Let me do it right now so that I don't forget. Oh, okay. There we go. Let's see. Let me find you here. There you go. You've been wrenched, sir. There you go. It says, hi, Edutech. You were indeed. My name is Greg. We are here chatting in the Convos live stream. Oh, okay. In the Convos. Nice. So it wasn't the Niman stream. But you see, like, I'm in so many live streams. I've been called the live stream ambassador. Sometimes they all run together for me. I think that I absolutely love the nostalgic feeling of having a conversation on the side and chat. Kind of like old AOL chat rooms. It's just something that I came to realize. No, I just hit the keyboard wrong. Oh, it's all good. Chocolate with... look at me. Words, Lewis, words. Chocolate Twist Yoga. How you doing, Callie? Saying hi, Lewis, and the MCJ fam. Says, love the profile shot. Well, thank you. I actually love that lens as well. I use, for reference, this shot right here. This is the Sigma 30mm. It's more of a, telephoto, and on the APS-C it gives me a 45mm look, so very close to the 50mm that I love so much, but it's a little bit wider, so I'm able to have it a little bit closer and still keep it within here. This right here, this is a 16mm f1.4, giving me a 24mm look, 84-degree field of view. Also my favorite, wide angle lens. Anything wider than this to me tends to start shooting into the fisheye, which is where I kind of, don't like. Personally, I owned the Sony 10-18, right? The OSS f4, and it's like ultra wide 15mm at 10mm, right? With the crop factor multiplication, and I would always end up putting it to like 16mm. So effectively it was a 10-18, but I would only use it as a 16-18, which to me at that moment I was like, there's no reason to have this lens when I don't use it. And whenever I'm gonna go to 16mm or anything like that, I'm using this lens right here, which is the Sigma 16. So I ended up selling it. So that's my experience with it. Chantel says, my live stream setup Sony a6400, but I have the kit lens. It's not terrible, great for f-stops, so missing out on the sweet bokeh. Yeah, but you know what? That is a great lens. Now, just to emphasize, let me show you. I know I have them around here. And I say them because I actually have two of them. Oh, I'm getting an echo here. All right, let's close that out. Oh, they're on the camera. There we go. Oh, let's see it right there. See if we can get it in the shot. That's my 16 to 50 millimeter lens. I have a video on this so that you can see. The one thing that I really dislike about this lens was the thread. Look at me with words. I'm running a blank right now. The size of the threads, the 40.5 millimeter thread that is on it with the small little like lens cap, it just drove me crazy. So I made a video on my channel about how I did this, which is I added a like step up ring and I just glued it to it, you know, just double-sided tape, and it now converted the thread to 49 millimeters, which is more traditional to the rest of my Sony lenses, meaning that my filters are more based around the 49 millimeter filter thread, and the, you know, and my lens caps. So this lens cap is the same one that I use off of my Zeiss 55 millimeter. This one, my 20 millimeter f2.8. So all of my Sony lenses that have this, you know, filter thread are, you know, similar. So why did the kit lens come with a 40.5, which to me was just like, I even put it in my video. I'm like, Sony, why? Like, I understand that you like compact things, but the lens cap was like the last thing that you should have been worried about, you know, kind of make it more uniform. So it's a simple little hack, but actually I think that's my best performing video on my channel as well. I think it's like at 12,000 views, and I made it last year, so I think it's like 1,000 views a month, which would obviously be my best video. Especially when I made it, I had just like 100 subscribers, and now we're 6 weeks into being into the 1K club, into the decimal point club. So really happy with that. But kit lenses, certain lenses that I've used from Sony that I do not like their pancake lens 16 millimeter, I think is hot garbage. Don't really like to talk negative about things, but that there's nothing sharp about it. Like, I could be completely in focus peaking or autofocus, and nothing would come out sharp. Nothing. So I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna move on from this lens as well. So I think that's the one lens from Sony that I think has not worked out well. But the kit lens, it really has surprised me. I even, you know, use it for like in vehicle, because when I'm recording myself in the car, dealing with a lot of sunlight, so you don't really need the extra stops of light because you would have to stop it down, especially for video. So f4 tends to be really good, and you still get a shallow type of depth of field because of the simple fact that you're flooding the camera with so much light. So keeping it at f4 or even 3.5 that you are able to at the 16 millimeters could get you a really good look with the kit lens. It's extremely sharp, which is usually the downfall to being a bad lens. Like I mentioned, that 16 millimeter f2.8 pancake. And yeah, I recommend the kit lens, especially to start out. The one thing is that I say, learn your favorite focal length, right? And if you know that you're always using it at 16 wide, or if you're always zooming into 35 or all the way to 50, whichever focal length ends up being your favorite, then I would always say invest into a prime lens of that focal length so that you can get the full functionality, instead of trying to get like a higher priced zoom with a fast aperture, because those tend to be even more expensive. And you see, there's Paul. He says sorry he's late. Thank you for stopping by. I always appreciate everybody's time. So, and I also know that you were on the other live stream, which I was listening to while I was getting ready for this one. That was a lot of fun. DJ Dina, cha 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 cha. You see, Gretchen was correcting me. R5 is 45 megapixels. See, And the RF 100 millimeter macro is sweet. Yes, I have it. It was the second lens I got for my R5. You see, there's another person, and thank you for sharing that with us, because that's just another person that confirms what I just let you know, that like that's such a sweet combination, and that 100 millimeter macro, man. That's why I actually love the 90 millimeter macro from Sony, but it's slow. It's just slow. And there's Gil. I believe I was talking about you. If you didn't hear it, you're gonna have to rewind, so check that out. It says, Tamron is my little secret. Super short and quick. Focus. Also, glasses so good. You see, like, thank you as well. Just right after Gretchen, to have somebody else confirm what I just let you know as well, because it's such a like a well kept secret from Sony users, but it's such a good lens. That's why I'm really stay amazed with this, because I think Sony right now is giving you the biggest range of glass when it comes to their camera bodies. That's why they're creeping up on all these other, more established or longer running camera companies, because of the simple reason that they're putting their focus or their energies in the right location. And one of them being that they gave the ability to these third-party companies to make lenses for them, because they realize, hey, if we can outsell camera bodies, that's great. If we can outsell lenses, that's even better. But if we can sell camera bodies because somebody else is selling lenses, that's like Jordan being happy that he's selling shoes because Reebok is making socks or something. Like I don't know how to put the analogy, but it's something that you wouldn't kind of put together, but because they just said, hey, yeah, have full range to our autofocus, and gives the ability to all of these companies, because I mean a lot of companies. You even have I believe it's Pergear or something like that has an autofocus line. You have Samyang, you have Tamron, you have Sigma, you have so many companies and new ones, even like the lesser brands like a Mikey, or even like Ulanzi making adapters to be extra wide angle. All of these features that Sony is given to other companies to boast their camera, like forte, so to speak, I think just speaks volumes about what they're doing in this niche. So the RF 100 to 500 is lighter than my 70 to 200 than the EF. Yeah, because that EF, man, that thing was a tank. So the 100 to 500 travels with me all the time. See, and that goes to show you, because that's something that I really do put into emphasis, which was, I mentioned this in a previous live stream, which was when Sony came out with the camera body, you have Canon users, right, complaining that, oh, the camera's too light, and that I would need a heavier camera body if I want to put such a big lens onto it, because I'm gonna go birding and anything like that. Which I was like, hey, if that's how you feel, that's how you feel. I would prefer a lighter kit no matter what, right? Then Canon comes out with the Canon R3, which is a full frame 1DX style body with the huge batteries, and it's 70% lighter than their 1DX. 70% lighter, because it's now mirrorless, shutterless, all these things. They just like gutted it out and just put tech into it. And the same people that are talking about, I need a heavier camera body, or just like now, oh, this is so great to have a lighter camera body with my big lens. I'm like, weren't you complaining about that not so long ago? Like, it's just certain people's biases. It just makes me laugh sometimes. But I give props to the companies whenever they progress with anything, because even if I'm a Sony shooter and Canon comes out with something better than anything that Sony has, that only leaves me to speculate that, hey, Sony's gonna come out with something, their best foot forward in their next go round, which will just, all us creators, we benefit from these camera companies like hopscotching. Is that how you say it? Something like that, just hopping over each other when it comes to technology. We all benefit, because if one wasn't pushing the other, you would kind of sit back and have like, Maybe a company just sit on their morals like Canon did for so many years on their cinema line. But you ain't heard that from me. All right, so let me continue here. It says, thank you for the shout out, brother. What are you using as my A camera? Both of these cameras are exactly the same. The only difference is the lenses. So they're both Sony A6100 entry-level APS-C cameras, but there's so much tech into them that they do more than enough than what I need. 120 frames per second, slow motion and high definition, does 4K 30, 4K 24. Just the fact that they do 4K. The one thing that it doesn't have is picture profile. So if you want S-Log Gamma, hybrid log gamma, you know, S-Log, things like that, this camera doesn't have it. When it comes to creative picture profiles, the creative styles, it has them all, like, you know, vivid, you know, portrait, things like that. I use it in the standard mode. I do all of the controlling when it comes to colors and everything through Ecamm because it makes it easier for me. Here's a trick that I can show you guys. What I do is that I have a 2 camera setup here. Let me see. I think I do. Okay, there it is. Okay, so you see the dual camera is both of them at the same time, but what I'm able to do here is actually like adjust my colors so that they match the best as possible. And because I'm using both Sigma lenses on both cameras, they tend to match up pretty well where, you know, you don't see a disparity between the shots. So this is a trick that I use so that while I'm looking at it in camera, I'm able to kind of adjust the colors and see it. They do look a little different, and it's because you have one with the, you know, like with the fuchsia or the kind of the pink background, and then the other one with the blue. But I adjust them to the white balance, so all of the settings are the same. Let's go back to this. Boom. All right, so we will continue with that. But yeah, A6100 16mm f1.4, and the one off to the side is the same A6100 30mm f1.4. It says, Gil says, hey, I'm here. It's for my A camera. Yeah, okay, I got that taken care of. How you doing, Scott? Welcome, as always. And Caleb's in the house. Hi, everyone. How are you? Doing good. Stephanie Telly, how are you doing? Saying my quality is amazing. Thank you. It's a long time. I think I saw you in the Niminati stream or one of these streams as well. That haven't really seen you around because it was Clubhouse at the beginning of last year where we met each other through there and through TikTok as well. So a pleasure to have you here. John's helping me out saying filter thread, right? I had such a brain fart. I got it afterwards, right? I'm like, the filter something with the words and the English. So, all right. So filter threads was the word of the day. It says, hope I'm doing well. I am, sir. And I hope the same for you. Gil says the kit lens can be a hit or miss. I think it's more of a hit than a miss. Like I said, I think that you can learn which would be your favorite focal length, and not that you're going to use that lens for everything, but I'll tell you the truth, I don't really use a lot of gimbals. I'm doing a lot more handheld. I bought a gimbal and then realized, yeah, I'm more of a run and gun handheld shooter type of person. If I'm using my A6100, I am fortunate enough to have this lens here, which I absolutely love for video. This is the Zeiss 24-70 f4. It's an OSS lens, so it's optically stabilized. And if I use it, I'll use it on my A6100. If I'm using a gimbal type setup, this tends to be a little bit heavier, even with that body, that I would actually probably prefer to use the kit lens in that scenario. The one draw to the kit lens that I really, and I just have to say, this is my one nitpick with the kit lens, is that whenever it retracts, like to do the power saving mode, that it doesn't save the focal length that you had. So let's say you're shooting at 30 millimeters and you have it on a gimbal. If it retracts and goes into like standby mode, what ends up happening is that as soon as you turn it back on to use it, you're gonna have to click it back to 30 millimeters and zoom it back into the focal length that you want, because it's gonna go right back to native 16 millimeters at its widest. So if you're using it at 16, then you're fine. If you're doing it anything tighter than that, then it could be a little bit of pain in the butt. But the lightweight and the OSS built into that is like kind of my go-to when it comes to handheld stabilized images. And like I mentioned before, if it's outside with plenty of light, that on video you might even end up needing to use an ND filter just to actually regulate your exposure, then at that point you're probably going to be better off just using the f4, you know, off of the kit lens, f3.5 or something, because you might even end up stopping it down further, you know, f7, f8, just depending on the situation and what it is that you're trying to get in your shot. You know, depth of field is great when it comes to photography and some video, but a lot of times in video you're going to be dealing at f8 or higher just to make sure that you have enough depth of field to capture what you want in the image and actually tell a story correctly. Because, you know, like a missed shot is mostly missed because of focus. So it says it's very sharp. It is a very sharp lens. I see it to be around 18 to 20-ish. So you see, if that's kind of like your preferred focal length that you're using with the kit lens, then I would tell you to start looking into that, you know, into that field and see what you can find as far as a prime. This one that I'm gonna bring up right now, again, let me see if we have it here. Can we get it in the shot? This is the 20 millimeter f2.8. The 20 millimeter is a pancake lens. Look at how small this thing is. And when I have it mounted on my camera, this is kind of like my go-to when it comes to street photography and just having a camera that I just grab and go, which is actually like my older Sony Nex6. This is a much older camera, but let me just demonstrate here real quick. I take this 20 millimeter, and with the 1.5 times crop that you get on the lens or the camera, the 20 millimeter effectively acts like a 30 millimeter. But now take a look at this. Look at how small this thing is. This thing is minuscule at best. And I get really good images with this setup. I absolutely love it. And the one thing that really impresses me about this camera body more than anything is that on top of it being super small, much older, this is a 2013 camera, 16 megapixel. It is completely magnesium alloy. So it is a full metal body frame, and the optical viewfinder that's on it is actually one of the better viewfinders that I've seen on Sony cameras. This viewfinder here on this camera, hands down, is like 10 times better than the one off my A6100. So when it comes to photography, this is kind of like my go-to grab and go, because I kind of tend to leave these cameras where they are for the video on my setup. So I just grab this camera, and here's a little Easter egg for you guys. One of my most recent videos that's doing pretty well was completely shot on this camera, and I let nobody know. And the funny thing is that that's part of, like, you know, what I try to exemplify here, which is upgrade your skills before your gear. You know, you could have all the great gear, but if you don't know what it does for you, then you don't know why you need to buy the latest and greatest. But if you know what you're doing with what you have already, you will know that you'll be taking the correct steps when it comes to upgrading any piece of kit. And you know that if something comes out just because it's new and shiny doesn't necessarily mean that you ever end up using it, because that's what we talk about here a lot, which is the gear acquisition syndrome, which is you just grab this stuff and then try to figure it out afterwards. That's a mistake, you know. So if you know what you're doing with it, then you can kind of avoid a lot of pitfalls that you would probably have when it comes to photography or video, when it comes to content creation or any sort that you'd be using this equipment with. So okay, let's go back to this. Scott says, I remember years ago that there was a program that had a function that showed me the focal length used based on popularity. Might have been ACDs. I have to check that out. There's one thing that I have. It's a website called Depth of Field, something like that, like Depth of Field Finder, and it really goes to show you like the difference between full frame and APS-C, and it's kind of like a flash website, if you understand what I'm saying. Like, you know, like the graphics aren't anything out of this world, is not like the latest and greatest type of website, but what it does give you the ability to is just punch in any like lens and camera combination, you know, whether it's APS-C, full frame, medium format, the focal length, the aperture size, and the distance between you and the subject. You can apply all of those things into it, and it's going to give you an illustration of what you would expect out of the image that you would get for photography or video, which is really cool because it just gives you a good idea of what you would expect out of the lenses before you even start buying anything. So if you do have the time, let me see. I'm gonna open this up. Okay. And I'm gonna copy this. Yeah, it's called Depth of Field Simulator. So it's dofsimulator.net, and I'm about to put it into the chat here. So boom. So you guys could go check that out. All right. Leapfrogging. That was the word, right? Thank you. I don't know. I guess the holidays is getting to me too. Let me hit up some more coffee because English is hard today. Okay. Gretchen says, my camera bag kitted out with my R5 system lens is 20 pounds before the tripod and at least 7 pounds lighter when I had the 5D Mark IV and EF lenses. Makes a big difference when hiking in a national park, right? Every ounce counts. And when you're talking about pounds, whew, that's a workout. So yeah, when it comes to me doing like an event photography and things like that, 2 cameras. And I'll tell you the truth, I'm kind of tempted because my main photography camera is the R2, the A7 R2, which is a 45, right? 42.2 megapixel. So like I said, megapixels galore when it comes to photography. But the one thing that I love is that it's actually not that big. So you know what? Let me grab it right here. Let me see where it's at. What did you do with that camera? Okay. Oh, it's here. That's one of the things I have a flash unit connected to it because I was doing some product photography, which if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat. Okay, so this is my Sony A7 R2, a 42.2 megapixel. What I'm going to show you is that body wise, not that much different from my Fuji X-T1, and this is considered to be a small camera. What I consider to be a small camera is this Nex6. So if you were to compare these, I can hide the Nex6 behind the Fuji camera, and believe it or not, it is just similar size enough that I could kind of hide the Sony A7 R2 behind it as well. So what really impresses me and what I love about Sony is that they're not the lightest, because when you grab like this R2 here, you can feel like that there's a certain quality to the components in it. It's got a nice density to the camera itself, but it's not overwhelming when it comes to weight. It is actually extremely light, and this right here is probably my favorite combination because hands down this is my favorite lens. That is the Zeiss 55mm f1.8 from Sony. In my opinion, the sharpest lens in the Sony ecosystem, especially for this size, f1.8. Even wide open at f1.8, this thing is like extremely sharp. The creamy background that you get off of it, and the color rendition in skin tones, the warmth, just everything about this lens. Whenever I shoot this lens, it is like, oh, I love all the photography that I get off of it. That's why, hands down, like my favorite lens. I love it also because it is a full frame lens at 55mm. But if I were to use it on any of my APS-C cameras, it acts like an 85mm, which is ideal for portraits. So I get all of the like sharpness, the creamy bokeh, the warm skin tones, everything in that, you know, like portrait style of you know, crop and magnification or compression, to better said. The 55mm is very similar to what the human eye sees, but still being punched into the 85 gives you that type of image, like very natural, but still with the compression and the look of a portrait for 85mm. Absolutely, like I absolutely love that lens, because if I had one lens to stay with for the rest of my life, it would be that one, because I could use it so versatilely, both on APS-C and full frame. So Timmy says, thanks for letting me know about the 6100. I currently have the Panasonic Lumix G7 with the f1.7 25mm. That one, it's a little tight. Like I said, it looks great, but the autofocus is rough though. Yeah, that's the one thing. You know, we joke around and everything, but we're saying, like, you know, Panasonic and Nikon can't see each other because they can't focus. That's kind of taken away right now, because I also mentioned that in a previous stream, where if Sony was if Nikon was gonna do anything with their new cameras, they needed to fix the autofocus. And I had mentioned that plenty of times. I was like, look, if like, stop focusing on the wrong things. Focus on what your people are telling you, that the one thing that they can't handle with your camera is the autofocus. And it looks like they nailed it with the Z9, and because of it, I think that Nikon can make a resurgence, because now every person who's held on to their trusty Nikon, and I take nothing away, I love Nikon files, how they work on my computer, they're amazing. Talking about it, I still have an old Nikon for one of my favorite lenses still here as well. This is a Nikon 5100. This is an even older camera, but this 35mm f1.8, also great in low light. 35 gives me more like a 50mm look. You'll tend to notice that that's a trend. I tend to like that, you know, particular focal length. So the 50mm look that I would get from this setup here with this camera is still such a great combination. But the reason why I have it here, honestly, is to tell you why I don't like flippy screens. See, flippy screens like this on this type of camera end up being useless to me, because they end up being kind of like a fixed lens. You know, if I want to take a low angle shot, right, I can hold it just like that, and I'm still able to see what's on the screen. You know, I'm like, I don't need to have the exact image, right? Trust the autofocus and make sure that you're framing it correctly, and you're gonna get the shot that you want. So that's why I would never use it in a sense like this, because this is not how I'm gonna do photography. It's just not. So go back to it. Hashtag team flip up. Here we go. You know what? Haven't even done this. Let's do it. All right. Said need to upgrade. Well, you could, but upgrade your skills, right? You can use it because it still gives you a good image. If you're not doing things like this, like actually putting a product in front and hoping for the autofocus to focus it in, then to let it go and have it snap back and make it look natural without it flipping out on you, then yeah, you might need an upgrade. But you know, from your streams, you pretty much got a static shot. If you can get it focused into where you're at and get that image looking good, it's almost just like a still photo. You know, you can still work with what you got, because I'll tell you the truth, when I saw your live stream, I wasn't worried about the image quality, you know, like it looked more than adequate, you know, and probably because the autofocus wasn't hunting or trying to do it, you probably had it set to manual. Excuse me, you didn't even have to worry about it. So Gil says facts. Okay, so that was me. Richard is in the house saying good evening to everyone. Nikon files are great. So I guess that's what he was saying. Yes, because Nikon files are great. Like, I'm talking about one of my all-time favorite cameras, and it's just the way that it felt in my hand, you know, like Jim Carrey says, like a glove. The one that fit perfectly in my hand when it comes to ergonomics is the D90 from Nikon, and it's an older camera as well. I had one of those, absolutely loved using that camera just like all the time, and it was just 12 megapixels, 12 point something megapixels, but yet I still go back to the files that I have in my hard drive that I took from that camera, and I just look at them, and there's a certain contrastiness to it that is just so nice, right? There's just something about these files. You just look at them, and I'm also telling you, like, raw versus JPEG, because I shoot in both. So it's like, yeah, the raw file has all the all the data that you want to play around with the colors, but the JPEGs themselves, like, there's just this je ne sais quoi, right? Like a certain aspect to the camera's quality. And but that's just a completely different conversation of me thinking that the smaller megapixels actually gives you more of a filmic look. But I digress. Okay, that's it for right now. Let's go to the last subject, which is computers. Now, this is gonna be pretty much an easy thing. The computer of the year of 2021 is anything M1 from Mac. I said it. Okay, now personally I have the M1 Mac Mini, which is last year's model. That's a 2020 model, so that doesn't fall into this category. So we're talking about 2021 anything. Oh. Quick second, give me a second, let me see what's going on with my son. What's wrong, puppy? Come here. Come here. Are you okay? Bobby, what's wrong? You have your cartoons. Come here. Okay. Is it finishing? Give me a quick second. Let me reset the cartoons for my baby boy. That's my boy. He knows when the cartoons are gonna finish, so he's like, he just lets me know, like, I need to reset this. So okay. Timmy says, I think I'm gonna upgrade from my M1 Mini to the M1 Pro MacBook so I can leave my desk to work. LOL. My 2-year-old gives me a hard time when I go into my studio room. Yeah, well, that's exactly what I was saying. I have the M1 Mac Mini, and it just does everything for me. I'm talking about, it produces this live stream. It does everything without a hitch. It doesn't break a sweat. I've never heard the fan cut on. It does my entire editing suite. So, and I have the base model 8GB. Now, I would have preferred maybe the 16 now when it comes to the bigger files that I'm trying to render when it comes to video. But my main thing is that I just realized if I'm going to do video editing that is going to require kind of like that extra bit of RAM, all I do is I just cut off all the programs on my computer and just let it do the Final Cut Pro rendering. and I can guarantee you that every file that I've done has not even made the RAM or the random access memory compress, meaning it will try to compress like the files to maximize the RAM, just because you're trying to get the most out of the 8 GB. When I monitor my computer, I can see all of these things while it's running in real time, and whenever I saw that it would go into yellow, never into red, but whenever it would go into yellow, I would just like kill my Safari browser, anything extra that I could be running. Like right now, I'm just looking at it. I have like Safari, I have Chrome, I have Ecamm Live, I have my Slack communicator, I have Zoom. Zoom is still open from earlier today. I have Audio Hijack and my system monitoring all on at the moment. If I were to probably to render a big file through Final Cut Pro, and I really mean a big file, like I've been doing some that are like 160 GB files, so I'm talking about big renders. When I'm doing those, then I just shut everything down and just let Final Cut Pro do its thing. It takes care of everything. So at that time, I have my MacBook Pro laptop, which is a 2013 model right here, and then that's what I start using for all the like my videos and all the things, just kind of like my computer entertainment. If I'm watching YouTube or conversing in a live stream, that's what I'll be using while the M1 is doing all of the hard work, all the grunt work in the background. But this machine has done everything that I could have ever asked and then some. That's why I personally haven't used any of the M1s, but I would actually have to say the computer of the year for me will probably be the M1 iMac, right? The 24-inch iMac that came out in a bunch of different colors. It's not the MacBook, not like the M1 Pro or the M1 Max. No, the M1 iMac, all-in-one system, because it came out in this year and because of the price that you can get for it. You're talking about, I believe it's a 2.5K screen, so it's like high retina display, great sound, super thin, extremely powerful, just as powerful as this M1, and it can do everything that you want. 16 gigs would be more than enough of the unified RAM memory, and that thing takes the cake. Now, if you have the funds to go into the MacBook Pro or the MacBook Pro Max, whether it's the 14 or the 16 inch, you can't go wrong. Those things are just so astronomically good. It's like stupid fast, right? How fast these things render. And for example, these big files that I was telling you about, these 160 GB files, how I have two Apple computers, I said, you know what, let me try to double time them, right? And have the M1 render one while my MacBook Pro renders another one, right? The files are big, but they're not really like graphic intensive, so I go to render it. This MacBook Pro was telling me that it was going to take 3 days. 3 days to render that file. 3 days. I can't get over it. This thing was telling me like, yo, see you past the weekend, like see you on Monday, player. Okay, this computer was telling me, and I rendered like 5-6 files on the M1 while this thing was like halfway, creeping at 50%. I was like, you're done. Like, I'm not even gonna waste any more time with you. That's when I said I just started surfing the web. And this is I believe the top spec of its day. It was the i7 processor with 16 gigs RAM. I have a solid state of 500 gigs on it, and it runs well. I have like really no complaints, but you just can't match with what these M1 machines are doing right now. They blow everything else out of the water. All right, so those are my choices for 2021 when it comes to photography cameras, video cameras, lenses, and computers. The last thing that I kind of want to touch on is accessories. Now, I was doing everything, I wrote everything down because as you can see, I didn't have pictures, but I had my notes here and things like that of what I was speaking about. And I was looking at the accessories. Now, accessories were so much harder to determine what year they came out to see if the ones that I was actually using and would recommend. But the one that I could find that I was like, hey, I use this quite a bit, and is ever since I got it. Big ups to KP, Mr. 10 Camera Keys, because he's the one who actually hooked me up with them. It is these Ulanzi quick claw clips. Let's see if we can get that in there. Yep, the claw clips. Now you see, you could just press these two and they separate. This quick release system is phenomenal. I've been using it for just about everything. I'm going to show you an example here. One of my other favorite accessories that I always use is my articulating arm. Now, the articulating or the friction arm I use for just about everything. I have right now 4 or 5. I have one that's holding up this camera onto my cage. I have another that's holding on to my secondary camera over here as well. So my camera's underneath them like this, and to show you right here, there's no tripods. They're literally floating from off of my desk cage, and they're just hovering in the locations that I need them, because I'm using an articulating friction arm like this to hold them up. As you can see right there at the end, I have that Ulanzi quick clip claw, and this thing's a game changer, because I was always using this to use with my phone, and whenever I wanted to adjust the size of, or the orientation of the phone, I would have to unscrew and then readjust and then tighten again. With the quick claw, it makes it even easier, because now all I have to do is just do the quick release, go sideways, and now my phone is on its side. But the same quick release system has a locking mechanism, so that now this is extremely secure. So I was using the articulating arms. The new addition is this quick claw, and the combination of them both is just like the best thing since sliced bread for me. Now, why do I say that? It has totally changed my photography as well, because I am able to attach the quick clip to the bottom of my camera, right? So you can see I have it there, right? And I already have it set up so that I can jump it back and forth. So what did I do? I replaced the ball head on my camera with the same setup. The articulating arm and the Ulanzi quick clip. So now I am able to securely attach my camera, and I have 2 active ball heads with an articulating friction arm, so that I can position my camera however I may please. So, give you a quick example. And this is a cheapo little tripod. This is a little, what is this? A Sun Pack $60 tripod that you can get at Best Buy. Okay. I have it extended here in front of me, as you can see. Let me see. Okay, let's put it here, right? So you can see. Tighten this down. So if I was a photographer now, well, not if I was, but if I was doing a photography photo shoot, I have the ability to completely adjust this camera however I see fit. No traditional ball head can do this, right? But if I want to go completely portrait, I have it here. I'm able to adjust it, adjust the size, and as soon as I find the orientation that I like, all I have to do is tighten it down, and the camera holds it in place. Just, to me, this is the best. And for what I was recently doing, which was the product photography, this is just ideal to go back and forth. And as simple as if I wanted to switch out, I just take it off of the hook. So this combination here has just been the best thing for me, because it's given me full flexibility of like adjusting my camera completely. And when you tighten down the friction, just like you would do a ball head, this thing ain't going nowhere. Nice little lock on here. Arca Swiss on this accessory. So to me, this is the champ of 2021. That's my camera junkie bias. That little setup there with the articulating arm and these Ulanzi quick claw clips, just been a match made in heaven. I've been using these clips for everything since I've gotten them. I got 4 and I'm gonna need more because they're just replacing everything that I have here. And the simple fact that I have an articulating arm that like I attach to the front here, so I'm able to take this same setup and then use it as an overhead rig on these cameras in just a matter of seconds. It's that fast that you can just clip on and clip off. Hands down, that's been the best thing that I found as far as accessories this year. So let me get back to you guys to see exactly where we're at. Okay, so we were here. Says I think I'm gonna upgrade. Yep. M1 Pro. Yep, because of his son. Okay. Says takes my friend with a 2019 MacBook Pro 20 minutes for a 1 minute 4K video. That takes the M1 like 2 minutes. Absolutely. And that's what I'm telling you. Like even this little base model thing, man. I just tell you, like before, whenever I would make a video for the channel, I would like put the file to render and go to sleep, and I was like, see you tomorrow, because that's how long it was gonna take for a 5 to 10 minute video. It was just like, you know, set it and forget it, like the rotisserie chicken guy. And now with the M1, I'm able to just wait while it's like rendering and it's on my screen. I'm able to preview it. And if I made a mistake, I know that it's not going to be like a whole nother night of rendering. You know, it's just minutes. And you're like, oh man, I totally messed that up. Delete, right? Get that out of there and render a completely new file. And just have it fixed, done, out of there. Boom. So that is like just the best. But yeah, taking way too long like this. And that's in 2019. Mine is a 2013, man. I was pushing that junk to the limits. Paul says, I love the claw clips. I have them on every camera and everything I would mount my camera to. Absolutely. And that's why I said how I use these articulating arms. I just take one of them like that, like off of it, attach it to my cage, and now use it like reverse to hold the camera and do an overhead shot while I'm trying to demonstrate something for B-roll, so on and so forth. Yes, Ricky's Timmy says, is that the magic arm or whatever it's called? Yes, the magic arm, friction arms, articulating arms, they should all, you know, send you to the same thing. There are links in my video as well to my kit.co, so it's all in there, and the ones that I have in my kit are specifically the ones that I have. There's a particular brand that I've been using for a while that I recommend, which is called Toazo. Yeah, Toazoe. Here, let's see which camera's on. Toazoe. Toazo. But yeah, those things, bro, I use articulating arms for everything. For example, my fireplace here in the back, that TV is being held up by an articulating arm. That's the arm number 5. So that television right there, that's a 19-inch television, is being held up by an articulating arm. That's also what I've used for like my monitor when it comes to recording videos. So when I was doing, you know, talking head and I'm moving away from the cage, I would prop my camera onto the tripod, and then I would attach that monitor to one of the legs of my tripod, and have that big 19-inch monitor basically be my field monitor to make sure that everything is in frame, that the image looks good, so on and so forth. All my camera settings, the whole nine, it's all being displayed like if I was using an Atomos Ninja, except it's 19 inches. Kevin says, hello all, sorry to be late, just got in from dinner with the in-laws. Well, thank you for stopping by, Kevin. I appreciate you as always. And he says he loves those Ulanzi quick claws. They're awesome, man. They're just awesome. You need a whole video on just that quick clip combo, right? It is like that combination of the articulating arms with the quick clips, man. You know what? I'm gonna do it. There's a couple of videos that I have that I'm working on right now. One of them is a extremely long time for me to make it. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna put it on the list, and by the time that I actually got to it, I'm like, oh my god, it's been like 2 months. But it was I'm making a video about iPhone photography, or how to get the best results out of an iPhone. A lot of the tips and tricks that you get out of there, like that normal, are kind of just like basic and generic. So I always try to look at things from a different angle. So I'm trying to provide the most value that I can to actually help people with photography. Like, here's a tip that I'm gonna mention, right? I love my iPhone 10 because it was one of the first ones to carry the zoom lens itself. This one is a 50mm or 55mm equivalent, right? Which is the one that was used for the portrait mode. Now, whenever you activate the portrait mode or that lens in an iPhone, the programming within the iPhone is always going to try to tell you how to focus the shot, right? It's always going to tell you move the subject back or move it closer. And the reason why the phone is telling you to do this is because it's trying to align the image to give you that fake bokeh, right? The foca. So if you're going to get the foca and the iPhone, it's going to tell you where to position the person. But the computational photography of this said portrait mode, even though it's gotten better, it's still not perfect. And for someone like me that has a beard, it will tend to cut off certain chunks and make this blurry or this too sharp, or not really know where the defining edge is, which is the most telltale feature or thing that you can tell the difference when an image is shot from an iPhone to a traditional mirrorless or DSLR type camera. It's called the bokeh, or the fall off that you're getting of the depth of field. So that depth of field fall off is natural when you're dealing with a standard camera. So the background is going to be blurrier than the subject that's in focus. When it comes to the iPhone photography, the lenses tend to capture everything in focus. So what you want out of focus tends to be digital or blurred out electronically. What I've noticed is, all of this speak just to explain that if you don't listen to the phone, right? If it says, hey, back up the subject or do something else, and you override it and you actually tell it, hey, focus on this and forget about your foca fake background, that lens actually gives you a pretty nice natural fall off. And the reason why is because you're just using it with its natural optics instead of trying to do anything computational. So you're taking the fakeness that would be applied digitally, like right out of the image. So I tend to use the zoom lens, but without the added feature of letting the computer tell me where the focus is and out of, so that I totally take the computation out of it. So my tip to you, use the lenses in their natural form, and you'll see that you'll get a much nicer image that no one would actually think you shot from an iPhone. So that's just one of the tips that I will be adding onto this video, but I'm still working on making that shorter, right? Like cutting out all the fat and be like, these are the like the pointers and things like that. So just one of many things here. Paul is saying hi to Kevin. Gretchen, yes. If you go into my kit.co, all of those are my affiliate links. So any of the links that you hit on the description down there should send you the kit.co. I have it broken down to, you know, like photography and video and accessories and things like that. Some of the items are in all of the categories because they all fit, but still letting you know. So yeah, if you go into my kit.co, any of those are my affiliate links, and I appreciate it. And if you're watching this on the replay, any affiliate link that's there does help me out and help out this channel, so it's highly appreciated if you use the links down below. You know, none of this stuff is sponsored. It's sponsored by MrCameraJunkie, so anything that comes my way is highly appreciated. Kevin is saying hi to Paul. You can also order the base only from Ulanzi. You will find you need more bases. You see, right now I might, but I'll tell you this about that, Paul. Right now I still feel like I need the same amount of clips as well, because I felt like I found more mounts, but then I was like, oh, I'm missing a clip. Like, I need some more. That's what I said. I think I'm at least missing 2 more, which could be just to like finish off my cameras and just having, you know, a mount on all of these base plates so that I can just like quick swap my cameras. Because yeah, that would be cool to just have like the entire system just uniform like that. Yeah. Jim says, oh wait, I think you already did. I think he's talking about the affiliate links. So says, one of the last videos I did, I had to render like 4 times within a 10-minute window. Wow. Well, you can do that with an M1. You know, if I was dealing with my old i5 Mac Mini, forget about it. K-Wall's also saying a big fan of those Ulanzi clips. Well, I think we're all in unison here. Like, we're all in one accord, say like this is probably the best accessory of 2021. Because everybody seems to have liked these quick claw clips. They're just so convenient, and I've already gotten used to just like one-handing them, like either clipping them in and then adding the lock, or reversing the lock and just like release, like lock and release. Just awesome. Says, I couldn't agree more about the M1 series. I traded my 2019 MacBook Pro for a 16-inch M1 Max last month. Wow, then you're more than set. Night and day for rendering times between Intel i9 and M1 Max. Zero fan noise too. Yeah, it doesn't even break a sweat. Now, I do reference this because I remember when we were talking about Windows back at the turn of the century, and it was AMD that came out strong with their first line of 64-bit processors, which was unheard of. We were only dealing with x86 and 32-bit processing at that time. So dealing with all that and seeing how bad AMD came out the gate, they came out strong, I think with like 6 different processors, and they were so advanced at the 64-bit level that any process that was required of them at 32-bit, bro, they wouldn't even break a sweat. They'll be just like lightweight, you understand? Done. And I remember installing Windows, and I was like, this thing installed in like 15 minutes. This is stupid. And that was a, you know, well-equipped machine with the new 64-bit processing. And that was back then starting the new trend of this, you know, platform on the 64-bit. And I remember the huge difference. And Intel at that time said, you know what, we're not even going to worry about it, because AMD came out the gate so strong that they were like, if we try to start building anything, we're going to be so far behind, we kind of need to leapfrog them. So that's the word of the day. Thanks, Chantel. So they needed to just leapfrog them in technology, and that's when, you know, things started progressing into higher, you know, bits and things like that. So, you know, faster RAM, so on and so forth. So, you know, we're all benefits of that and the technology change and the platform being changed, and we're experiencing the same thing now with the M1. Right now, this is such a dramatic shift when it comes to computing and in the way that it's built. You know, their SoCs, right? Their systems on a chip where you have the RAM and the GPUs and everything. Like, these machines are so capable. And what most people don't understand is that they're designed for the future. So what Windows machines has, as far as, you know, like advanced graphics for gaming, it's kind of gonna be rendered useless very soon because of all of the metal patchwork that's being done through the, you know, M1 series, and the fact that these 3D animations, renders, and gaming are all going to be running off of this type of, you know, metal framework. M1 is already set for the future, right? And, you know, the more and more that you start realizing the way that this multi-billion-dollar industry, which is, you know, gaming, is actually applied, whether it's Twitch or console, like, you have to understand that people just want the experience. They're not gonna really care. And one of the most popular games of this last year and the year before was Fortnite, right? Fortnite, whether it does have big computing power, can be played through a phone, you know, because it's mostly cloud-based, and all of the hard rendering is actually done by the server, and you're just connecting. As long as you have a adequate, you know, connection to that server, then you're gonna have like very low latency when it comes to the response and the gaming experience that you're getting off of it, whether it's a computer, whether it's an iPhone, an iPad, you name it. It's mostly being held, like all of the, like that grunt work, like I mentioned again, is being done by the servers that are hosting the game. So when you know that the future is kind of more leaning toward the cloud-based gaming, where you can connect to a platform and get the experience, yet you don't actually have to have the entirety of that gaming system downloaded to your device because you're just using your phone to connect to it. That really goes to show you, if your phone is going to go to it, the M1 machines that are coming out, the Max and the Pro and the Pro Max and everything like that, bro, these things are going to kill the gaming world as we know it as well, because what, it's just going to come down to simple one-to-one computing. And when you're dealing with that, then, you know, the faster your computer can compute this, deal with the graphics, and then you want higher quality, whether it's video for gaming or video for, you know, entertainment, you're going to be reaching these higher compression codecs, which is the H.265s, and these machines are already designed with cores specifically to render those type of codecs. So hands down to what Apple has done with this M1 chip, I'm all for it. I am like 100% in on it. I'm gonna see what new computer I grab next year, right? This 2021 or 2022, because I was fortunate enough to grab this, but it has left me in awe, and I know that next year we should be expecting the upgrade or the Pro version of the M1 Mini. Okay, he's fine, just checking. So having the M1 Mini Pro or Pro Max, that's gonna be stupid fast. I just can't wait. And I'm like kind of a desktop guy, but I also have this photography MacBook Pro. It's what I use for my photography because of the Retina screen and the colors and everything like that. This might be the one that I upgrade next, right? Because if I get an M1 Pro or Max and a MacBook, I will probably have that computer for a while. Seeming that this is a 2013 and it's still doing me good. Yeah, that computer probably lasts me a good 10 years. Think about that. How much would that computer cost me a year if I use it for the next 10 years? These are the things that you got to put into contemplation. That's the word. The T before. Yeah. It says you should add your kit.co link to your description. I believe it's there. Let me check. If not, I'll drop it as well. Excuse me. Yeah, It's under the check mark that says gear used in this video. So if you click it, it takes you to my kit.co. Yep. But I'm gonna drop it in chat just the same. So yeah, it's MrCameraJunkie.live/gear. And I'm gonna put it in the chat right now. Boom. Okay, I just saw that Gretchen said I didn't find it in the description, but I just dropped it there. So you can click onto that link, you should be good. That'll take you to the kit.co. And yeah. And it's under the category baby grip. Yes, baby grip gear, because grip gear is what we call C-stands and boom arms and gaffer's tape and all the things that we use to have the behind the scenes, work that gets done, the gaffing, so the grip gear, that's what it's called. So you're like, oh, who has the grip? Like that's when you encompass all of the things that is like the behind the scenes hardware. That's what you call the grip crew, the grip crew. So I call this baby grip because there I put all of the things that we use as content creators that is smaller, but it's still used in the same type of reference as far as the gear that we use behind the scenes here. And instead of C-stands, I have articulating arms, and instead of all-purpose clips, I have quick release clips. So that's where you can find that there. So the baby grip has all of that. I have another category called used camera gear, which is all of my used gear that I have, like my 5100 and my XT1 cameras. Not the newest, but still such great gear, and the images and video that I get off of this stuff is still it's still great. For example, I did a video with this camera. The hardest thing, in all sincerity, was that I had to record external audio, right? Because there's really no way to get the audio directly into the file. So I was still able to record the file locally so that it didn't have any of the HDMI things. I recorded the audio through Ecamm like I normally do with my microphone, and then just sunk them in the editing process and made it very easy. But nobody knows which video I'm talking about because nobody could tell the difference. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Okay, Paul left it in the chat. I don't know if that one works, but it could. Oh, okay, so that's what he was saying. I'm on mobile, I couldn't grab the app. So he was thanking Paul. Just make sure you sell it private. Trading credit is buns, lol. I'm not sure what this means. But if we're talking about the music, bro, I'm not selling that file. Like, not for nothing. Like, so. Oh, okay. I think I know what he was talking about. I think he's talking about the Mac, the M1, or like my MacBook Pro. Oh, I know that. I actually already checked that stuff out, and I have to absolutely agree. Well, he says just make sure to sell it in private, or because the trading credits is buns, is like absolutely garbage. Yes, I put the best stuff, and it wasn't even for the computers when I realized it, because I mostly deal with iPhone. So it was like, hey, you know what? And that's a whole nother story. Like, I am so heartbroken right now. My iPhone is giving me the worst problems that it could ever give me, which is it's not recognizing Face ID. I had to replace the screen on it recently, and I was wondering why it was giving me problems with it. When I come to check it, it's the flex cable that actually connects that portion to the camera. It's just been flexed one too many times. Of all the times that I've actually done the screen repair on my iPhone 10, and it literally just like broke. So now that that cable is physically broken, my just to let you know, all the IO up here is not even working. So it doesn't do my Face ID, doesn't recognize that. I can't use the speaker, so I'm stuck completely on the AirPods to answer my phone calls. Proximity sensor is busted as well, so you know, like, even if the speaker was working, which it wasn't, if I were to put it onto my ear, the screen will never turn black. So in the middle of a phone call, I would be speaking to someone and my cheek would then touch the screen and put it on mute. So many different, like, pain in the ass, like, situations with the phone. So I started looking to see about getting me a new iPhone and how much I would get for this phone as far as credit, or my working phones, you know, like my iPhone XR, and they were just giving me beans. I was like, are you kidding? Like, I can sell it for 3 times that much on the street. Like, it's just stupid what they give you as far as credit. It's like worthless and minuscule. So I absolutely agree. And if I were to sell any of my computers, definitely selling them on private through a Facebook or anything like that before I would do anything with Apple. Okay, so I'm getting messages as well. Let's just continue. It says for 16 gigabyte RAM, 512 storage, $1,200 new trade in, like $610 through Apple. Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, garbage stuff. Gretchen says I didn't find it in the description. Well, I hope this one worked for you. MrCameraJunkie.live/gear, that will send you to the kit.co. She says thanks. Okay, so she's got it. Oh, you were looking for the kit.co. Well, I do try to make it easy, right? So I was trying to make it simple to find, but I'm happy to help. So anytime, just ask me. I'll make sure to put it in the chat. I was talking about the MacBook Pro 2019 having to trade up. Absolutely, yeah. I got it eventually, right? But yes, like anything when it comes to the trade-in value that you get from Apple is beans. It's nothing. Absolute garbage. But, guys, thank you as always for hanging out. We got through all of this information. I thank you as always for taking your most precious commodity, which is your time, and spending it here with me. It means the world to me. Oh, somebody just snuck in the last door. Hey, like Doc says, you're gonna be cleaning erasers, bro. He says Marine X says my 14-inch MacBook Pro M1 Max is so clutch. I'm keeping the Mac Mini for dedicated live streams. Yeah, that's ideal. Like, if you could just have it there for live streams, that thing doesn't break a sweat. The 14-inch Pro, like, you know, in all sincerity, if I get one of these MacBooks in the upcoming year, it's probably going to be the Pro. I don't really need the Max because, honestly, I'm even contemplating the regular M1 MacBook. The reason why I wouldn't get it is because it's more photography based, and believe it or not, this bad boy, that SD card slot that it still has, I use it all the time. So I'm one of the few, you know, far and few that still use it. Give me all the extra IO with the MagSafe, all of that stuff on the new system is just calling my name, right? So it's gonna do more than what I want for it, and I know that I can, you know, invest in that computer and have it for the next 10 years easy when it comes to my photography and my workflow, you know. And hopefully that I don't have to use it for the next 10 years, but that I know I could. So that's where it really is enticing me a whole lot. And just to let you know, Mr. Marine X, I did catch your live stream with the fireplace. I saw it. I really do appreciate the reference. I don't know if you saw me chat that in the chat last week as well, but I do appreciate it. Really impressive, man, with your live stream. Like, you did a great job. And then on top of that, man, like that whole EDC world, you know, I deal with it just a tad. Let me give you a little... see if I have it around here. Oh, I don't see it. Oh, here it is. You know, just a little EDC type taste here. Let's see if we can get that in there. There we go. Just a little everyday carry. So definitely, it was really nice to see that stream. And for those of you who don't know, yes, I'm Puerto Rican. And they say, do all Puerto Ricans carry knives? And it's not true. we carry 2 of them because the first one always gets frisked. So we need to have that spare, you know what I'm saying? So just to give you the Puerto Ricans carry knives. Like, no, not all of us. Most of us carry 2 because the first one gets confiscated. You know what I'm saying? We gotta think ahead. All right, so okay, Dale is in the house saying good evening. How are you doing, sir? Welcome, welcome, and good night. You know, Caleb's also saying have a good night. Kevin the same. Have a good night. SD card slot. Yes, I know, right, Gretchen? Like, not about that dongle life when it comes to all these SDs and things like that. To have that feature in there, and that's another thing. Like my M1 Mini, the original, also had an SD slot. So to go to the M1 and use a dongle for it, I'm glad that I got this Hagibis external hard drive enclosure that sits underneath my M1, and it has a memory card slot in the front. So now it's like effectively has the memory card slot, and I don't have to go to the back. So it's actually a added feature. And because of it, I also put my 2 terabyte external hard drive into it. So I paid $800, no, not even 800. Let's bring that back. I paid $600 for this entry-level Mac 1, and I got it with the 8 gigabytes and 256 gig SSD. But then on top of it, I have a 2 terabyte external SD that works like if it was an internal SD, and that's the one that's what holds all my files, all my renderings. So these big 150 something gig files are being thrown in there without a problem. I have 4 USB-A ports on there, 2 of them being 3.0, 2 of them being 2.0, the SD card slot, and the TF, or the micro SD slot. So that thing's been awesome, phenomenal. I think I paid $70 for it, so it works great. I have another dongle which has some more USB type A's. It has 2 3.0s, 1 2.0. It has a USB sleeve. It has another TF card reader and an SD card reader. So now my Mac Mini has 2 card readers, and the most important, it has an HDMI out, which gives the display to my second monitor here. So I have 2 monitors connected to the M1 with a 2 terabyte hard drive, all installed into one, and it takes about like this much room on my desk. Absolutely love it. Love what they're doing with these systems because they're super efficient and they save so much space, and they save time, which time, like I reference again, is our most precious commodity. So yes, Kevin says, everyone make sure you hit that like button on the way out. Yes, please do that. And like I like to say, make sure you hit that like button, get that done. It says thanks much, EDC is my jam, I'll be back on the live soon. Cool, hopefully I'll be able to catch it live as well. Timmy is laughing at something I said. Yep, something I said has got people laughing, so that's good. Oh, Randall's in the house, sir. How are you feeling, sir? How's your eye? I hope you're doing well. If anything, you know what, shoot me a message to my phone because I'm closing out the stream now. I would love to know how you're doing, sir. Like I said, you're always in my thoughts, so I appreciate you so much. It's pretty much impossible. Every time I look to the left and see this machine, I think of you. So but with that being said, guys, thank you once again for taking the time and hanging out with me in Club Camera Junkie. It really does mean the world to me. I appreciate every single one of you. You make this the spot that I always want to be at every Saturday night, and I can't thank you enough for being here and spending your time here with me. So take care of yourselves. I want to tell you ahead of time, have a happy Merry Christmas Eve, right, on Friday night, and Merry Christmas ahead of time. Believe it or not, it falls on a Saturday, and on the 25th, if you're not doing anything, I want to let you know that I will still be here. I will be doing a Christmas Day night stream next week at 11 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. I am Puerto Rican. We do our celebration on Christmas Eve. So Friday night is when I will be partaking with my family, so on and so forth. And Christmas Day is kind of a day of relaxing, which I will also be doing, and then spending the evening here with the Camera Junkie crew. So if you have the time and you're just hanging out and you just want to chill after a day of hustle and bustle on the 25th, just know that you could always rely on me, and Mr. Camera Junkie will be here like clockwork for episode 56 consecutive weeks of the Camera Junkie live stream. And like I said, can't thank you guys enough for being here. So for those of you who can make it, I will see you next week. And for those of you who can't, happy holiday, Merry Christmas, enjoy your time, and maybe I'll see you on week 57. So with that being said, take care of yourselves. I will see you all next week. Enjoy the holiday. I will do my best to do the same. Have a great night, guys.